Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. Henry stood before the full-length mirror, his heart racing as he smoothed down the silky fabric of the dress he wore. The deep burgundy color complemented his skin tone perfectly, and the way it fit his body made him feel beautiful in a way he'd never experienced before. He ran his hands over the soft material, marveling at how right it felt against his skin. For years, Henry had suppressed this part of himself, hiding his desires and dreams behind a facade of conventional masculinity. But in these private moments, when he could truly be himself, he felt alive. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway jolted Henry from his reverie. His eyes widened in panic as he realized his wife, Sarah, was home early from her book club meeting. He scrambled to remove the dress, his fingers fumbling with the zipper as he heard the front door open. "Henry? Are you home?" Sarah's voice called from downstairs. "Just a minute," Henry replied, his voice cracking with tension. He managed to get the dress off and shoved it into the back of the closet, quickly pulling on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. His hands shook as he tried to wipe off the subtle makeup he'd applied. Sarah's footsteps echoed on the stairs, growing louder as she approached the bedroom. Henry's heart pounded in his chest as he frantically tried to erase all evidence of his true self. The bedroom door opened and Sarah stepped in, a smile on her face. "There you are. I thought we could order in tonight and watch that new... Henry?" Her expression changed as she took in his flushed face and nervous demeanor. "Is everything okay?" Henry forced a smile, trying to appear casual. "Of course, just doing some cleanings." He gestured vaguely around the room, hoping she wouldn't notice the smudges of makeup still visible on his face. Sarah's brow furrowed as she stepped closer. "You've got something on your..." She reached out to touch his cheek, and Henry flinched away instinctively. Her eyes narrowed in confusion, then widened as realization dawned. "Henry, are you wearing makeup?" The world seemed to freeze around them. Henry's mouth went dry, his mind racing for an explanation, an excuse, anything to avoid the truth. But as he looked into Sarah's eyes, he knew the moment had come. He couldn't hide anymore. "Sarah, there's something I need to tell you," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. Before he could continue, Sarah's gaze drifted to the closet door, left slightly ajar in Henry's haste. A flash of red fabric caught her eye, and she moved towards it, her expression a mix of curiosity and growing apprehension. "Wait, Sarah, please," Henry pleaded, but it was too late. She pulled open the closet door, revealing the carefully hidden collection of dresses, skirts, and blouses that Henry had accumulated over the years. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. She turned back to Henry, who stood rooted to the spot, his secret laid bare before her. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. Henry took a deep breath, steeling himself for the conversation he'd both longed for and dreaded. It's who I am, Sarah. The real me. I've been hiding it for so long, but I can't anymore. I like wearing women's clothes. It makes me feel whole." Sarah shook her head, stepping back as if physically struck by his words. "No, this can't be... Henry, what are you saying? Are you gay?" "No, it's not that," Henry said, his voice gaining strength as he finally spoke his truth. "I'm attracted to women, to you, but I've always felt different, like I was meant to be a woman myself." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah's face cycled through a range of emotions: confusion, anger, hurt, betrayal. When she finally spoke, her voice was cold. "How long has this been going on?" Henry swallowed hard. "I've felt this way since I was young, but I've only been exploring it for the past few years." "Years?" Sarah's voice rose. "You've been lying to me for years?" She began pacing the room, running her hands through her hair. "I don't understand. How could you do this? How could you keep this from me?" "I was afraid," Henry admitted, his voice cracking. "Afraid of losing you, of being rejected. I love you, Sarah. That hasn't changed." Sarah whirled on him, her eyes flashing with anger. Hasn't changed? Everything has changed, Henry. How can I trust anything you've ever told me? Our whole marriage feels like a lie. Henry stepped forward, reaching out to her. No, Sarah, please. I'm still the same person. I'm still the man you fell in love with. As soon as the words left his mouth, Henry realized his mistake. Sarah's face hardened, and she backed away from his outstretched hand. Are you? Are you really, Henry? Because the man I fell in love with didn't keep secrets like this. He didn't dress up in women's clothes behind my back. The hurt in her voice cut through Henry like a knife. He wanted to explain, to make her understand that this wasn't a betrayal, but a part of who he truly was. But the words wouldn't come. Sarah grabbed her purse from where she'd dropped it on the bed. I need some air. I can't be here right now. She moved towards the door, pausing to look back at Henry with tears in her eyes. I don't even know who you are anymore. With that, she was gone, leaving Henry alone in the suddenly oppressive silence of their bedroom. He sank to the floor, overwhelmed by the weight of his revealed secret and the fear of what it meant for his future, for their future. The days that followed were a blur of tense silences and stilted conversations. Sarah slept in the guest room, and Henry felt like a stranger in his own home. He tried to give her space, to let her process the revelation, but the distance between them seemed to grow with each passing hour. A week after the confrontation, Sarah finally approached Henry as he sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a cold cup of coffee. We need to talk, she said, her voice steady but strained. Henry nodded, gesturing for her to sit. Sarah remained standing, her arms crossed protectively over her chest. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began, and I have questions. I need answers if we're going to move forward from this. Hope flickered in Henry's chest at her words. She was willing to talk, to try and understand. It was more than he had dared to hope for in the dark days since his secret had been revealed. Of course, he said. I'll tell you anything you want to know. I promise. No more secrets. Sarah took a deep breath, then asked, How long have you known that you felt this way? Henry considered the question carefully. I think I've always known, on some level. Even as a child, I felt different, like I didn't quite fit in with the other boys, but I didn't have the words for it then. It wasn't until I was in college that I really started to understand what I was feeling. Sarah's brow furrowed. So you knew before we met, before we got married? Henry nodded, shame coloring his cheeks. Yes, but I thought I could ignore it, push it down. I loved you so much, and I was afraid of losing you if you knew the truth. Did you ever act on these feelings before? No, Henry said firmly. Never. You're the only person I've ever been with, Sarah. My feelings about my gender identity don't change how I feel about you. Sarah finally sat down, her posture still rigid, but her expression softening slightly. I just don't understand. You've always seemed so masculine. How can you feel like a woman inside? Henry leaned forward, eager to explain. Gender identity is complex. It's not about how I act or dress most of the time. It's a deep, innate sense of who I am. When I wear women's clothes, when I allow myself to embrace that part of me, I feel complete in a way I never have before. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, processing his words. Then she asked the question Henry had been dreading. What does this mean for us? For our marriage? Henry reached across the table, relieved when Sarah didn't pull away from his touch. I love you, Sarah. That hasn't changed, and it never will. I want to be with you, to build a life with you, but I also need to be true to myself. I can't keep hiding who I am. Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. I don't know if I can do this, Henry. I married a man. I don't know if I can be with someone who wants to be a woman. The pain in her voice broke Henry's heart. He squeezed her hand gently. I understand. This is a lot to take in. I don't expect you to have all the answers right now. All I'm asking is for a chance to show you that I'm still me, still the person you fell in love with, just more authentic now. Sarah withdrew her hand, wiping at her eyes. I need time, Henry. This is It's overwhelming. I need to think about what this means for me, for us. Henry nodded, trying to hide the disappointment and fear that threatened to overwhelm him. Of course. Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready to talk more. Sarah stood up, her movements hesitant. I think I'm going to stay with my sister for a while. I need some space to process all of this. Henry's heart sank, but he forced himself to nod. I understand. Just, please don't give up on us, Sarah. We can figure this out together. Sarah paused at the doorway, looking back at Henry with a mix of sadness and uncertainty. I hope so, Henry. I really do. As the front door closed behind her, Henry was left alone with the echoing silence of their home and the weight of an uncertain future pressing down on him. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of Henry's life. The house felt empty without Sarah, and every ring of the phone made his heart race with hope that it might be her. He threw himself into work, trying to distract himself from the gnawing fear that he might have lost everything in pursuit of his true self. But as the days passed, Henry also found a strange sense of relief settling over him. For the first time in his life, he didn't have to hide. He began to explore his femininity more openly, wearing subtle makeup or feminine accessories even when he went out. It felt like taking his first full breath after years of shallow breathing. It was nearly a month after Sarah had left when Henry's phone buzzed with a text message from her. Can we meet? There's a new cafe downtown. Tomorrow at 2? Henry's hands shook as he typed out his reply. Of course, I'll be there. The next day, Henry arrived at the cafe early, his stomach in knots. He'd agonized over what to wear, finally settling on a soft, pale blue sweater and jeans. The sweater was from the women's section, but it was subtle enough that it didn't scream feminine. He wanted Sarah to see him as he truly was, but he also didn't want to overwhelm her. Sarah walked in a few minutes later, her eyes searching the cafe until they landed on Henry. He stood up, his heart racing as she approached. Hi, he said softly. Hi, Sarah replied, her voice equally quiet. They sat down, an awkward silence falling between them. Finally, Sarah spoke. You look different. Henry nodded, running a hand through his slightly longer hair. I've been trying to be more true to myself. How are you doing? Sarah took a deep breath. It's been hard. I've done a lot of thinking, a lot of reading, trying to understand. Hope fluttered in Henry's chest. And have you and I now come to any conclusions? Sarah met his eyes, her expression a mix of determination and vulnerability. I love you, Henry. That hasn't changed, but I won't lie. This is still difficult for me to wrap my head around. I'm not sure what it means for our future. Henry nodded, fighting back tears. I understand. I know this isn't what you signed up for when we got married. No, it's not, Sarah agreed. But I've realized that maybe I didn't really know you before. The real you, and I want to, if you'll let me. Henry's breath caught in his throat. What are you saying? Sarah reached across the table, taking Henry's hand in hers. I'm saying I want to try, to understand, to see if we can make this work. It won't be easy, and I can't promise anything, but I'm willing to take it one day at a time if you are. Tears spilled down Henry's cheeks as relief and gratitude washed over him. Yes, he whispered. Yes, I want that more than anything. They spent the next few hours talking, really talking, in a way they hadn't in years. Henry shared stories from his childhood, moments when he'd felt out of place or different. Sarah listened, asking questions and sharing her own fears and hopes for their future. As they left the cafe, Sarah hesitated. Would you like to come home? I think it's time we faced this together. Henry's heart soared at her words. I'd love that, he said softly. The days and weeks that followed were filled with conversations, tears, and moments of unexpected joy. Sarah began to join Henry as he explored his femininity, offering hesitant advice on makeup and clothes. It wasn't always easy. There were still arguments and moments of doubt, but slowly they began to rebuild their relationship on a foundation of honesty and acceptance. One evening, as they sat on the couch watching a movie, Sarah turned to Henry with a thoughtful expression. "Have you ever thought about a different name? Something that feels more like you?" Henry blinked in surprise. I have, actually, but I was afraid to bring it up." Sarah squeezed his hand encouragingly. "Tell me." "I've always liked the name Hannah," Henry admitted softly. "It feels right." Sarah was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "Hannah, it suits you." From that moment on, Hannah began to emerge more fully. She grew out her hair, experimented with different styles of clothing, and slowly began to live as her true self. Sarah was there every step of the way, offering support and love, even when things were difficult. It wasn't always smooth sailing. There were still moments of tension, times when Sarah struggled to reconcile the person she had married with the woman Hannah was becoming. But there were also moments of profound connection, as they rediscovered each other and fell in love all over again. As Hannah began to transition more fully, presenting as female in all aspects of her life, she and Sarah faced new challenges. They had to navigate telling friends and family, dealing with reactions that ranged from supportive to hostile. Hannah faced discrimination at work and in public, but Sarah stood by her side, a fierce advocate and protector. Their relationship evolved as well. As Hannah embraced her true identity, Sarah found herself questioning her own sexuality. She had always considered herself straight, but her continued attraction to Hannah forced her to reconsider those labels. One night, as they lay in bed talking, Sarah confessed, I think I might be bisexual. Or maybe pansexual. I'm not sure of the exact label, but I know that I love you, Hannah. Not despite who you are, but because of it." Hannah pulled her close, overwhelmed with emotion. "I love you too, more than I ever thought possible." As the months turned into years, Hannah and Sarah's relationship deepened and strengthened. They faced the world together, supporting each other through the challenges of Hannah's transition and the evolution of their partnership. 5 years after that fateful day, when Sarah had discovered Hannah's secret, they stood together in their backyard, surrounded by friends and family. Hannah wore a flowing white dress, her long hair adorned with flowers. Sarah stood beside her in a tailored suit, her eyes shining with love and pride. As they renewed their vows, Hannah's voice rang out clear and strong. "Sarah, you've seen me at my most vulnerable, accepted me at my most authentic, and loved me through it all. You're not just my wife, and you're my best friend, my partner, and my biggest supporter. I promise to love you, to cherish you, and to continue growing with you for all the days of our lives." Sarah wiped away a tear as she replied, "Hannah, you've taught me the true meaning of love and acceptance. You've shown me that being true to yourself is the greatest gift you can give to the world and to those who love you. I promise to stand by your side, to fight for you, and to love you in all your beautiful complexity for as long as we both shall live." As they sealed their renewed commitment with a kiss, Hannah felt a sense of peace and rightness that she had never known before. Thanks for watching. The rest won't be viewable on YouTube, so check out Patreon if you want more. I hope you have a wonderful day, my cutie.